No, I'm not going in all in with Morikawa. I timed this probably insanely bad, but it doesn't really matter. I'm declaring us live. Awesemo.com, Tuesday, PGA DFS strategy show. We are ready. We've got Travelers coming up to my neck of the woods, Tim. Myself, Ben Rasa, here with Fantasy Golf Man, Tim Frank. Ready to go. I guess we'll have to do a little recap of RBC. How goes it? Did you watch Webb's coronation once again?
That was tough. That was tough. And we knew it was going to happen a week after. Well, you were off of Webb at Colonial. I was on Webb, and he was bad at Colonial. And it just felt like, the perfect spot where even though we missed the cut the week before, the price came down. People were still playing him. I did not play him. And then he was just fire with the putter. And that's a perfect course for him too. Short course, you don't have to drive it particularly far. Emphasis on everything but off the tee, and that's what he excels at. And when the putter is really good for him, he's pretty elite player, as we saw.
It was we got Josh Engelman behind the glass, and on Friday, him and me were sweating, just bitching about Webb gained 6 strokes putting on Friday. It was ungodly. A couple 100 feet of putts. He made more putts in one hole than Ricky did for 18 holes on Friday. That was a killer for a lot of reasons, but enough about that. I want to say, of course, off the top, we've got Super Draft sponsoring the show. We're going to get into them in a little bit, but in terms of the recap, we got to shout out the Millie Maker winner. He didn't just win the Millie. He had the optimal lineup, basically, or maybe actually it was just perfect, literally perfect. One going away, which you never, ever say.
And he was unduped, correct? Was he
unduped?
That's even crazier.
Neiman was low owned, so that did it for him.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to that guy. Just crushed the field. I wonder what it feels like to win $1 million. Like, at what point did he have, did he realize it was there's no one's catching me? It was halfway through Thursday. And he's like,
I wouldn't know, believe me. I've had a couple decent showings here and there. Never, ever where I'm just cruising down 18, drinking a beer.
I'm sure he was still. I know if it was me, I would be somehow Webb and Anther are both going to make 11s on 18, and I'm not going to win this. I would have been sweating no matter how big of a lead I had, which I'm sure this guy was as well.
How could you not? How could you not? Anyway, we've got chat. What's up, everybody? Hit the like button right off the bat for us. Pump those numbers up. We got a lot of regulars. We got some newcomers in here. People want to talk about Leishman. We will talk about Leishman. I promise. It may pain me a little bit. But anything else? And we're going to jump into some super drafts soon. Anything else that you noticed last week about Heritage, besides the fact that they tore the course apart?
Yeah, it was they did a number on that course, but that's a course that if the wind doesn't blow, I mean, it's gettable. It's very short, and once you put it in the fairway, even with an iron or a hybrid, you don't have to hit driver. It's, kind of like a wedge fest, short iron fest, and without the wind, it's an easy course, and those guys kind of tore it apart. So it's interesting. All these tracks, we see 3 in a row now, short tracks, places where there's usually a weak field, and we see super strong fields at all 3 of these events, bunch of long hitters, which you don't normally see. So it's interesting to see what these guys do to some of these events where we don't normally see them at.
It's true. And that's something we're going to talk about, strong field. But let's get into it. We're going to get into Super Draft. Before we dive in, I do want to just talk a little about them. Future Daily Fantasy Sports has arrived. If you haven't played Super Drafts mode, the multiplier mode, it's their exclusive way that they play over there. You're not constrained by the salary. Basically what you do, you've got your top end players. They're going to be that 1x multiplier, and you get incentivized as you go lower. So if you want to play someone that's quote unquote cheap, you're going to get them at 1.5x. So that means that for all the points they scored, you get that upside, you get that bonus. If you haven't signed up, use the promo code Awesemo12, and it's $10 free on your first deposit of $10 or more, $20 total free on your first deposit of $100 or more. You also get a free $12 ticket. We're going to be doing some giveaways tomorrow night, me and Jason Roslin. But if you guys haven't checked out Super Draft, that is a great way to build the bankroll. Some of those contests overlay, and it's a new format that's much less solved. Going to get into some plays there right off the bat, Tim. I mean, no surprise. And then we'll transition and have you talk about the course. But you've got the Brysons, the Rorys, the Rahms up top. And then as you work down, there's so many guys, and you can talk about, I mean, Travelers is usually after the US Open. Now it's not strong field, stronger than we see usually.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we've had to deal with all 3 weeks is, we look at the guys who've played well here, and it's a lot of short hitters, but then you look at the fields, and just like Colonial, just like the RBC, which is the week after the Masters generally, they're just not strong fields, and the weaker fields tend to not have those elite long hitters in it. So you go back and you look at the winners list, and it's a bunch of short hitters and Bubba. But you got to try and figure out, like, is that a function of this is a course that just rewards the short hitters, or is it just because none of the elite players have been here? And that's kind of something we'll have to unpack this week again.
Yeah, I mean, the depth of the field, though, I mean, when you look at these multipliers, you're going to be able to get guys, big name players at even a little, I know it's small, but like DJ's 1.15x, Finau 1.15x. That's massive. And even when you go down, big time incentives to play some of these guys. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely do. Tomorrow night, me and Jason Rosden we'll be building some teams over on Super Draft, and we're giving out some tickets. So stay tuned for that. But let's talk about the course. Let's talk about Tpc River Highlands. Like I said, this is in my neck of the woods up in Connecticut. This is as short as it gets, Tim. I mean, this thing is really short.
Yeah, I think it's the shortest regular track on tour. It's 6,800 yards, par 70. Another Pete Dye design, just like Harbour Town last week. It doesn't seem as tricky as like Harbour Town or Sawgrass, which has a lot of a lot of visual intimidation with bunkers everywhere and sharp dog legs and stuff like that. I don't want to use tricked up, but it doesn't kind of have all the bells and whistles of those other tracks, but it is a Pete Dye course. Super short course. So obviously the short hitters are going to have a great, they're going to be just fine here. And if you look back at the winners, we've had Bubba 3 times, and he's kind of an outlier. Besides that, we have Ches, Speith, Russell Knox, Streelman, Ken Duke, Mark Leishman. Leash, longer hitter, but the other guys, very, short to average length. So the short hitters have every chance in the world here. But again, I don't think it's a course. We saw Colonial. We didn't think it set up well for the longer hitters, and they kind of took advantage of that. Last week, definitely didn't think it set up well for the longer hitters. And we saw, I think accuracy was more of a premium than at Colonial. But here, I don't think the long guys are going to have any problem with this, as Bubba has shown. It's a short track, but it's not that tight. There's not that much premium on accuracy, I don't think. So I think of all the 3 tracks we've seen, I think the longer hitters will find this more to their liking than the other places.
I do too. It's not to say, and this gets misconstrued every week. I don't think that there's ever a course that really exists where you would want to be a shorter hitter. That doesn't make sense. But there are courses where it's not as big of a problem to be short. And this is another one. Here, you need to gain off the tee. That's the difference. Like last couple of weeks, not that you want to be bleeding strokes off the tee, but I think you could get away with it a little more. Here, you don't need to gain with distance, but you need to gain. Being in the fairway, being aggressive off the tee is pretty important here. They have, I believe, the shortest par 4 around. Everyone will be going for that, right?
Yeah, 296. Bryson might be hitting like 5 iron into that bad boy. I don't know. That'll be interesting. So yeah, it does yield a fair amount of eagles for a par 70. The par 5s are 523 and 574. 523, obviously, that's like green light. Going to be like driver and a mid iron for some of these guys. And yeah, and then when you factor in the par 4 that's drivable by literally everybody, for a par 70, it's going to yield a fair amount of eagles. And that's something to keep in mind when you're making rosters, is the shorter hitters tend to not make as many eagles. The longer hitters maybe can just outscore their placement or their finishing position.
Absolutely. And the way Bryson off the tee, it's just disturbing. Other than that, the course, I don't see a ton that's really worth noting. Like I said, it's a par 70. It's very short. The rough is a little up. The one other thing that we should talk about, and I don't even know what you call someone that specializes in greens and grass. It's POA. There's a bent mix. What is? Just go ahead.
I thought it was bent. I'm not a putting splits guy. I thought it was bent. Then I saw bent and PO mix.
Stupidest person.
I think the only thing that we can safely say is it's not Bermuda. So your big time Bermuda guys, maybe give them a little bump down. But again, I'm not a huge putting splits guy. It's not Bermuda. We'll leave it at that.
That is why, chat, you come to this show. We have ruled out Bermuda for the greens.
I'm not afraid to say I don't know.
Nobody knows.
I honestly don't know, and I don't think it's that important.
That's the key. It's one of those things. It's just hilarious because if one of the POA guys goes nuts, it's like, well, it's POA. If someone who's a bent split, well, it's bent. Like, yes, I do think it's worth looking. If I had to choose one, the POA thing I think is more important because it's an awkward surface. But overall, it's not overly important outside of maybe a couple guys, and we'll try to highlight them as we dive in. Let's get into it. Before I do want to tell you guys, because why wouldn't I, about a giveaway we're doing. You can check out the pinned tweet on the Awesemo.com Twitter handle. You get a chance to win an Awesemo Plus monthly pass, a full month. So it's going to give you all the premium content, tools, and projections for 30 days. All you have to do is subscribe to the Awesemo username or Twitter handle and go to our podcast channel and leave a 5-star review. When you do that, put your Awesemo username or your Twitter handle in the review, and that's it. You're in. We're going to draw the winner this Friday at 8 p.m., but we want to really get those numbers up. We're a little biased. Got to leave the 5-star review, but if you do, Awesemo Plus monthly pass you'll be eligible for. We got a lot of dudes here. We talked about the strength of the field. We can group them all, the 10K plus guys. You have a million different options, Tim. How do you organize this top range with 6 big names?
This is a tough week because I think, we've had 2 weeks of data. Things may be becoming a little more clearly, but you still got to figure out, what do we do with the guys that maybe we have had 2 poor weeks? What do we do with guys where we have no data? It's going to be interesting on what to do with that. Just starting at the top, I think the 2 guys I like the most, and I don't think it's going to be surprising, probably the chalkiest 2. Bryson, just the things he's been doing the last 2 weeks have been amazing. The ball striking numbers completely off the charts. So he was 8th last week at RBC, gained almost 10 strokes off the tee and on approach. 3rd at Colonial, gained 12 strokes off the tee and on approach. It's absolutely obliterating it. And he really hasn't putted that well. I think he's just been slightly in the plus with the putter, which is fine, but it's not like he's had an amazing putting display the last 2 weeks, and that's how he's attained these finishes. He's just smashing. I think the course sets up fine for him. He's had top 10s the last 2 years here. I'm not a big course history guy, but he's got that going for him. But I do think he'll be the most popular of the expensive guys because people just love him. He's turning it. It's almost like a meme, like bulky Bryson. Like everybody's just like jumping on him, and he's playing well. But the numbers all back it up. I mean, I can't really say much. I'm probably highest on JT, as I always am, but he came through on Sunday with a great round, -8. But 8th and 10th the last 2 weeks, the ball striking hasn't been as good as Bryson's. I mean, Bryson kind of dwarfs JT's numbers, but still he was plus almost 5 last week and +5 at Colonial. Really good numbers. I just like his all-around game. I think he's one of the most well-rounded players in the world, and just has those low rounds even when he's kind of seems like he's out of contention. But I mean, you can make a case for anybody up top. Obviously, Rory seems like he's going to be low owned, which is crazy, and hasn't even really played that bad. The finishes haven't been great, but the ball striking has been in the positive. I think it's like 3-4 strokes in both events. But yeah, I mean, are you going to a low owned Rory this week?
Definitely. So the thing that I find really interesting is if this was a normal year, you wouldn't see Rory at Hilton Head. Like he just wouldn't play Heritage. That's not a good course for him. He was fine. The 2 weeks ago, he didn't get it done on Sunday, but he easily had a chance to win going into that. So I have no problem with that. He's played this course a couple times in recent years. He should dominate off the tee. I get Bryson. I mean, it's scary to think about what Bryson's off the tee numbers will look like at a course where he can pull driver. I'm interested in Rahm, though. He's another one who hasn't been nearly as good, but honestly, he couldn't putt 2 weeks ago. And then last week, he played with JT on Saturday. They both played amazing. Sunday, he couldn't really get it going, but like when you have to shoot 65 to make a move, I don't know what you classified didn't get it going at. So I feel fine with him. Really, you truly could make a case for all 6 of these guys. To me, it would be Rory and Rahm, then the 2 guys you mentioned, and then Webb and Brooks rounding out the 6.
Yeah, I think, no one's going to Webb this week. Price is back up. It's still a good course for him. We've outlined how the shorter hitters have done very well here. Pete Dye course. I don't like Webb. I think it will be interesting. Actually, let me rephrase that. I hate Webb after what happened last week. I think he'll be by far the lowest owned of the group, and the course fit is good.
Yes.
I would go Brooks over Rahm. Brooks looked really good last week. The ball striking was good. It seems a little overpriced, though. I guess when we get down to some of the guys in the 9K range, we can compare and contrast them to Brooks. But I would have Brooks ahead of Rahm. But like you said, not a good course for Rory, not a good course for Rahm last week. So these guys that struggled, I don't know, you can kind of take it with a grain of sand as far as, it's just a tough place for guys who dominate with the driver. Now we know Bryson did well, but it's just not a great course for guys that are going to gain try and gain a ton of strokes off the tee. Harbor Town just doesn't set up well for those guys. So you can almost, I don't know, that mitigates, I think, a poor performance last week.
Yeah, I don't read much. Even though this course is really short, to me, it's vastly different than RBC Heritage.
Yeah, there's just not as many trees and all that crap.
It's different.
Just get in the way of like wayward drive at RBC is out of bounds or just dead in the jungle, basically.
Yeah, it's true. Those South Carolina jungles will get you every time. Old Hilton, notorious for Chapultepec-like jungles, but that's neither here nor there. So this is where it gets right off the bat. And these guys, again, on Super Draft are going to be decent multipliers. We got Cantlay. And then we've got 5 other. It's a pretty interesting range with Xander, DJ Rose, Morikawa, and Answer. But we got to start with Cantlay. He doesn't play as often as other guys, but of course, nobody takes breaks like this. Do you think he's any different than? I'll just say this: Hatton took a long break, so did Decky. One of them was great. One of them was god awful. It just shows. It's hard to predict this stuff. What do you make of Cantlay? Do you worry about the break?
Yeah, the guys that we haven't seen yet scare me. And I think they're going to scare a lot of people, and they're going to come in under-owned. And like you said, some of them are going to be fine. Some of them aren't. I don't know. We have, Cantlay. We have Casey. I don't think I'm going to play Cantlay just because, there's so many guys in this range that I like. There's so many guys that we've seen for 1 or 2 weeks. We have a lot of data from those 2 events. I don't know. I think, last week I felt more confused. I think things are looking, and this is scary, things are looking a little more clear to me this week, having 2 weeks of data to go off of. But, it's really hard when you look at guys in the same price range that you think of as comparable golfers to Cantlay, who we've seen like 2 good performances out of. It's really hard to click Cantlay completely blind over guys like DJ or Rose. So, I'm not playing Cantlay, but he'll be under-owned because I think everyone kind of shares that sentiment with me.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it so? Chat. We got a couple people in chat, and feel free to drop your thoughts that say Cantlay, no problem. He's going to be ready to go. He's got the new septum. He is a guy that he fits this course. He should be fine. I just don't know if I want to pay that. To me, DJ is Brooks overshadowed. Brooks started storming. DJ was also really solid. He just couldn't putt last week. 9,400. I think this is a kill shot spot for DJ. I really like him this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100% fired up. Ball striking was actually better than Brooks. And Brooks seemed to get the bigger price bump, maybe just because of the on-paper finish of 7th as opposed to 17th for DJ. DJ actually struck it better, gained 8.5 off the tee plus on approach, and he just didn't get the huge price bump. I know they bumped him up some, but 9,400, I think this is a fine course for him. Yeah, and that's when you're talking about Cantlay. It's just really hard for me to pay $400 more for Cantlay, over DJ, who's got 2 weeks, 2 events under his belt. One of them struck it great. It's really hard for me to pay $400 more for Cantlay. So yeah, I'm with you. I like DJ. I think he'll be popular. I like Rose again at 9,200. just the price seems just weird to me. And I'm going to go back all the way back to Colonial where he was 9K and we liked him. And we're saying, we're kind of taking a shot in the dark because we don't know what's going on with him. Like long-term form is good. He's got rid of the Hanma club. So yeah, we'll take a shot on him at 9K. And he was good at Colonial. He finished third. Then last week didn't really get much of a price bump. And I said, well, hey, let's go back to him because we liked him at Colonial. And he didn't get much of a price bump. He was good again. 14th actually struck it better at Harbour Town than he did at Colonial. Colonial was a little more done with the short game. But now we have 2 good weeks in a row, still 9,200. I'm going right back to him. I think DJ will suck up a lot of the ownership in this range. But I like them both. DJ, Rose, I think are great plays.
Same. I feel pretty comfortable with either of them. Last 2 guys we got to talk about because we don't even pretend that Xander's in the field. I have no take on him again. It's so hard.
Yeah.
He's just there.
This is where he's going to win because
probably
nobody knows what to do with him.
I got to get back on that. It's very difficult. But Morikawa is 9,100. He finally regressed with the irons. I wasn't on him last week. Got away with it. Still made the cut. He did nothing for you though. He's 91. And then we've got the man that should have won last week in Abraham Answer. Hit every green, 6 under bogey free on Sunday. Still loses. He's $9,000 in a major field though. What do you say about both of those guys?
Yeah, I mean, Morikawa, we've both kind of been on the same page with him for weeks and weeks now. Just seemed overpriced. We were never getting there. Finally, last week, it didn't kill us to fade him.
Oh, and then Webb
I'm
wins.
still waiting for him to like fall on his face and just shoot an 80 on Thursday and just really pay us off. I'm still not getting there. You know, he wasn't good last week, just in a loaded range again. So I'm not playing Morikawa. Answer, I mean, he's expensive, but, you know, I've been putting together ball striking stats for a couple years now, every event.
You ever see something like that?
I swear to God, and maybe somebody like Rick Gaiman or something like actually keeps these numbers. I'm just an idiot and tally them up and then toss them in the garbage. But he gained, what is it? 15.1 off the tee and on approach. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. That might be one of the high, that could be the highest in like 3 or 4 years. Just an absolute stripe fest. But, you know, I don't know. 9K when you're talking about having them wedged in with guys like Bubba, Casey, a couple $100 cheaper than Rose, DJ. I don't think I can get there. But, you know, and he was good at Colonial too. It wasn't like he was bad. He was 14th there and gained strokes off the tee and on approach. So, I mean, I don't blame anybody for playing him, but 9K is a little steep for me. So I'm not getting there.
Same boat. I get it if you want to continue. He's done nothing but play excellent golf, but there is no doubt in my mind that Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, Sanjay M, Sergio, like these are just better golfers to me. Like I'll go with them and they kick off. Paul Casey kicks off the range. He dominates this course, hasn't played. Are you, again, same question as Cantlay. Are you taking the same mindset?
Yeah, I mean, he's got two negatives is like the course history, even though the price doesn't seem that expensive for his course history, but we haven't seen him. People are going to go there just because of the course history. I generally don't like that. I feel like he's just making him a few $100 more expensive than he should be. Again, I would just much prefer find the couple $100 to get up to Rose or DJ rather than Paul Casey, who we haven't seen, and really price increase. I mean, the course history is great, but I mean, it's like if you played this event 100 times, he's not finishing 5th, 2nd, 5th, 17th, 2nd. Like, I mean, eventually, you know, there's going to be some miscuts in there. And I think we've seen it with all golfers who've had amazing course histories, and then you see them play at an event like 10 or 15 times, and it kind of gets a little wonkier. So no Paul Casey for me. That's like strictly a course history play, and that's not my style.
It's the other thing about that. Like, this is as full a field as it gets. So this is the hardest cut to make. You got 65 in ties, and this is as jam-packed as it can be, 156 guys. That is brutal. I don't care who you are. You're going to miss some cuts there. So we'll have to see with ownership. It's just a loaded range, though, because Bubba, you know, he wins this event all the time. Other than that, though, he's got a wide range of outcomes. You've got Reed off a miscut, Sanjay Im off the rare miscut, and then Sergio, who, if Answer didn't win, Sergio should have won last week.
It was 2 weeks in a row of me just giving up on golf and then like finding out that somebody just went bananas on like the last 6 holes. And Sergio ended up not being that close, but when I actually looked, I think he had a birdie putt on 18 to at least be like the clubhouse leader or something.
It was insane.
But enough about that. Another losing week.
You like Sanjay coming back? No.
I mean, I can't say I don't like him. I don't know. If I was gonna, I don't love this range.
Okay.
If I was gonna play somebody, I mean, honestly, I know Bubba's going to be overowned because of this. Don't roll your eyes.
I'm rolling. Go ahead, and then I'll talk about Reed.
I have reasons, and I don't think I'm going to play Bubba, but there's reasons to play him. I mean, the course history is amazing, and he's the one guy, maybe the one guy in golf where course history is more important with him than anybody else. 3 wins, 3 other top 6s since 2008. Okay. So course history is great. The price really isn't that expensive at 8,800. And he's actually played pretty well the last 2 weeks. I know he was 52nd at RBC. Like I said last week, I couldn't think of a worse course for him. And he was 52nd, but plus 4.2 with the ball striking. So that was at least decent. And he was 7th at Colonial. I mean, he's hitting the ball pretty well. Now we get him at a course that obviously he likes. I mean, the course history doesn't get much better than that for a guy who literally thrives at only, Augusta, Riviera, and Highlands. The ownership would be up, but if it was between him and Paul Casey, I'd take Bubba every single time just because he shows the ability to actually win more events than Casey. And we've seen him for 2 weeks and he struck it good. But I don't know. The ownership probably will keep me away. But I don't mind Bubba.
I like Reed. It's always my style. Like give me the discount and ownership. Guy can grind. Bad miscut last week, but those are gonna happen. Bubba, listen, the thing that you hit on, and I couldn't argue this, course history for him is more important. He has places he loves. You're not going to see him ever win the Open. He's not holding any claret jugs anytime soon. Like, that's just never going to happen. He loves Genesis. He loves Travelers. I get that. I just worry about the lethal combo of paying the premium for a popular guy. Like, I don't think Bubba's that good. I don't think he's as good as these other players. Now, it doesn't matter long-term. It matters how good he is this week at the Travelers, and I get that. To me, I feel better backing Reed and him off miscuts. Even Sergio, who probably is going to get some interest, I'm fine with that. It's not a range that I love, but I love it more than – so the second half of the 8Ks, do you have any interest in these guys, starting with your boy Jordan Spieth?
Oh, Speith has been
awful.
Just god-awful.
It's hilarious because he showed sign. Like, he had 6 straight birdies on Thursday. And I've seen this story before. Like, I will say, honestly, I didn't have 1% of them at all. There was no panic at all in my mind because Speith does that. He shows flashes, but he cannot sustain it. And on the weekend, he actually did gain off the tee, but he was still horrendous.
Oh, good for him. Off the tee, that's great.
Yeah, good for him is right. You tell me.
No, I dislike the entire AK range. Honestly, I don't even know if any of these guys will be like a core play for me. With you on Sergio at 8,500. I vastly prefer him over anybody from 8K to 8,500. Was really, really good last week. He was 5th, led the field in tee to green, plus 11.4 with the ball striking. The irons were just phenomenal. He gets a price bump, but if I had to go anywhere, probably anywhere in the 8K range, I said I liked Bubba, but I don't think I'll play him because of the ownership. Sergio would probably be my favorite play in the 8K range. And besides that, no, not liking anybody. Woodland, super disappointing last week. I wouldn't mind going back to him. The price is fine. And, we just see this in golf. We see guys have great events, really great numbers, and then one week, and then the next week it just kind of falls off. And then, it's like, who knows? He's a good golfer. I'm not making too much out of one bad week. So I wouldn't mind him. Wouldn't mind going to Finau. But honestly, I like Sergio. I think he's the best play in this range, but this is just not a range 8K to 9K that I'm in love with. I love the lower 9s and I love the 7K range.
I like Finau a little bit as well. He can be a little more aggressive. He's better on Bent and Poa than Bermuda. Bermuda's his weak surface. So that he's one guy that I actually think it matters. Not going to be overly popular because the results haven't been there per se. But talk to me about Leishman. So he's gained. He was at Charles Schwab. He tripled early. He had a big problem. Still gained 4 with the irons. just couldn't putt. And when you look at his stats, the thing I like about him, he's got the boom bust nature with the putter and with the results. Second at API, won Farmers. In between that, a lot of ugly showings. For a tournament play, I think you can roll the dice on Leishman, but I don't know how you would know what you're exactly getting with him.
Yeah, like you said, boomer bust guy, was good before the break. I mean, he's honestly like a perfect tournament play, I think, at 8K, because he missed the cut at Colonial. But like you said, it was all short game. Our on and around the green was not good. I think he was plus about 3.2 off the tee and on approach for 2 rounds, which is, perfectly fine. He's going to be one of those guys that flies under the radar. People are going to see, well, he's only played 1 of 2 events. He missed the cut. That's not doing much for me. But yeah, I mean, we always like Leash, and the performance at Colonial was not that bad.
No.
I feel like I was on him at the Players and he shot like 80 in the first round or something.
That sounds like something. Both of those things that sound like something that would happen.
It was like, oh yeah, he's been on fire. Like the approach game is solid, all in at the Players, and he shoots 100.
Not that we need to go back because he's not in the field, but how bad was Decky last week? I don't know if you caught some. He was on PGA Tour Live. I don't know what happened. That was awful, and left it all on the Players.
It is. It's really a crapshoot trying to figure out how these guys are going to come back after 2 months. And we said this at Colonial. It's like, don't go back and look at how they played 2 months ago at the Bay Hill and Honda and all these places, because it's really somewhat irrelevant. And yeah, I mean, Decky was a prime example of that. It's really hard to just carry over form after not playing a competitive round for 2 months for any of these guys.
It's very true. But here we go. The field is so deep that, I mean, these are guys that in week events would be like 10K, and even in average events would be towards the mid 8s, low 9s. You got Neiman, Chilean amateur, as I call him. You got Poston, Hovland, Ian Poulter, who felt like a damn genius on Thursday with him, and then all hell broke loose. Go ahead. Start with these are mid-range multipliers on Super Draft. Start with the high 7s, though. There's got to be, I would assume, some names that you're pretty into here.
Yeah. My pants are officially off. This is like
yeah, that's right.
Great range, and some guys I'm pretty excited about. Starting with Neiman, who I think will be popular, but 7,900.
That guy.
He was great too last week. 5th at the RBC, gained 10 strokes off the tee and on approach. Really some great numbers out of a lot of these guys, but he was really, really good. And he was decent at Colonial too. He's 32nd, gained 3 strokes with the ball striking. So 2 good performances. Last week was just great. He had a 5th here in his only showing in 2019. So, 1 for 1 with a great finish. I think 7,900, a great price. And the other guy I love, and I think these 2 guys go hand in hand, kind of similar guys, is Hovland at 7,800, 21st and 23rd.
60-1.
Yeah, I like Hovland a lot. 21st and 23rd, gained 7 strokes with the ball striking last week, almost 5 at Colonial. So he's hitting it really well. And the thing I like is I'm always looking at these ball striking numbers, and it leads me to a lot of guys like Kevin Streelman and Grillo and some of these old guys who, even Lucas Glover, like even if they play well, they're probably not going to get there. I mean, these 2 guys are young studs. I mean, they actually have some game, and I think if they play well, I mean, they can contend and win. So it's kind of fun when the numbers align with guys that are young studs who can compete, are going to make a ton of birdies. I think everything lines up really well for Neiman and Hovland. They're my 2 favorite plays up here, but there's a lot of guys.
I really like Hovland this week as well. I've said this before. Morikawa, and I get it. I get it that he's very good with the irons and whatnot. I feel like he's overshadowed how good Hovland is. Like, to me, there's no, and this is probably more of a knock on Morikawa. They're $1,300 difference. That's not right at all. I get why it's that way, but Hovland is a damn good player. If he could putt or do something with his short game, he'd be unstoppable. But here he should just be able to rely on the ball striking, which is, I mean, it's off the chart. His off the tee is dangerous. Neiman is just, he can really score. When he has to scramble, it's problematic, but he finds ways to not have to do that.
And I don't think, unless the wind is going to be up, this is not a course that usually demands a lot of short game. It's
Not at all.
short track, not overly difficult. I don't think it's a place where you're going to need to scramble as much as I know. And the last week ended up playing really easy, so it maybe seems like we were off the mark with the game a little bit, but I mean, even less than last week. I think this place it should be another birdie fest.
I would think so. So Brian Harman is going to be very popular, I think. Closed with the bogey free. I think it was a 65 on Sunday. He's got fantastic course history. He's par 70 guy. He's got, I think, what you would want, but you don't seem into this, no?
Let's look at the ball striking numbers. What do you think he's gained through 8 rounds?
I don't know. Not much. He's a good putter.
0.1.
So he's positive. It's a binary. You're either positive or negative. So him and Answer both positive. That's how you frame that. 3rd, 6th, and 8th at Travelers before. Good course for him. Maybe not. I don't know. Okay.
It is. No, it's a great course for him. But he's kind of the opposite of what I look for. So he's got a great course history. He's got 2 good finishes, 28th and 23rd, but a lot of it's been done with the putter. And this is just like a stacked range for me. I'll counter with Joel Dahman. He's kind of the opposite of what Harman has done. So he was 48th and 19th, but he has not been able to putt, plus 7.2 last week off the tee and on approach, plus 5 at Colonial. I don't know. I question his upside. Like, I like Neiman and Hovland. Like, I feel like if they play well, they can win and contend. I don't know if Dahman is kind of like the quintessential Streelman play that I mentioned before, where the numbers are great, but you wonder, even if he plays really well, can he really, really get there?
I don't know. I wonder what course he played on Sunday too, because he was the only person literally in the entire field who was going backwards. He's a pure ball striker. I think his upside's capped. Can I do the triple pivot to Scotty Scheffler?
Sure.
That's something I thought you might do.
I don't know. I don't know what to make of him.
The shine's worn off.
The shine's definitely worn off. I think, yeah. I think this is a good kind of like a buy low spot for him.
I like Harman though. Definitely.
Do we know what happened last week? Why did he withdraw last week?
No, Scott and chat just asked that. That's a fair point. I don't know. I'm going to try to dig. Obviously, if we hear something, we'll pass it along. Okay, we've reached the point in the show, chat. The good news is this point in every show gets later and later because we go from top to bottom. And Jason Day, by the time we do shows at the end, he'll be the last segment. Do you have any interest? I honestly don't even know how you can back him much at this point.
No. I mean, I have no interest. If this was like an MME, we're putting in 150, I'd say, sure, give me, 10% and pray. But no, I mean, there's no way you can articulate anything besides saying he was once a great player. The price has just gone way, way down. But I mean, there's nothing you can say that's going to say, oh yeah, like, okay, this is why we're going to play this guy. You're playing him because he was an elite player who's very cheap, and you're literally just praying that this is the week that he turns it around. I mean, there's no other way to frame that.
No, there's not. Believe me, I would know because I've tried every framing in the book. It's not working. You've got also a lot of options as you work down. We've got pure pure off the tee and ball strikers. Corey Connors, Keegan. Kokrak, I don't think is that insane. Billy Ho, Ches is the champ. Ryan Palmer. Talk to me about, the mid to lower sevens here.
Connors, always good. The numbers are always good for him. I mean, just he's cheap, and you're going to get great off the tee and on approach game week in and week out. He was 21st at RBC. He was 19th at Colonial, and the numbers were good. They backed that up. I would go right back to him. I just think, when the ball striking is that good, I mean, I'm going to give him the kiss of death. It's hard to be that bad. I mean, it's really hard when you're giving yourself like all these good looks. I mean, you're hitting fairways, hitting greens, having good looks at birdie. he's an awful putter, awful short game, but I don't think the around the green game is gonna matter too much. I mean, the statistics for him for 7,500. That's a really good price. So I think I'm gonna play some Connors, but still, he's well behind. If you can get up to Neiman or Hovland for the $300 or $400 more, I think those two guys are like light years ahead of Connors. But I still think at 7,500 he's a good play. And then I don't know. Do you have anybody? There's a couple of guys at 7K flat I'd like to talk about, but I don't have anybody between 7,500 and 7K.
Oh, okay. Well, I got dudes.
Dude,
runner up last year. This to talk about sustainable. Keegan Bradley, who gained 10 strokes putting at Travelers last year. I will say he's made the cut 8 straight years here. I think this is a pretty good course for him. He can lean on his driving. More of a. I'll use him as my Streelman play of the week. He kind of just does his thing. I'm not saying Keegan wins, but I do think you could do worse for the price. 2 guys, and these are both fascinating.
Okay.
First is Benyon. He was awful last week. He was probably the worst player in the field, all things considered. What do you make of it? He's had 2 sluggish starts. He lost 6.3 putting last week. That wasn't the problem, though. He lost 4 strokes off the tee.
I mean, the price has plummeted, unlike Day, who we've seen, it seems like it was a decline before the break. 2 weeks, I think we can talk ourselves into playing him because the price is really good. And I mean, you can lose if you're not hitting it well, you're going to probably lose more strokes at Harbor Town than you will at a normal place, because a wayward drive there is much more penalized than a wayward drive at some of these more open courses.
So listen to this. In Benyon's career, his worst 2 off the tee performances ever was the last 2 years at Harbor Town, 19 and 20. He lost 8 strokes off the tee last year there and 4 strokes off the tee this year. So to me, that more speaks to Harbor Town than anything in terms of a problem with his game. 2 weeks ago, he recorded a 9 on the par 5. That's what did that. I'm going to go back there and just hope that we see pure ball striking. I know the putting's not going to be good, but you never know. He could hold it around 0 and be just fine. My favorite play in the range, though. Sweet swinging Louis.
Are you going to pair him with Day, or are you going just solo Usti?
Team withdraw. I like the spot for Usti. I know he's not playing well. Everything else checks out, though. He's played the Travelers before just fine. I comp this to Valspar. He's dominated at Valspar several times. Recent form means practically nothing with Louis, and he's 7,200. I'm there, and I think the Valspar correlation is actually really strong. You see that?
Well, I mean, yeah, we've had Casey dominate both places. I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. I can't even think of Valspar winners now anymore. Just because Casey won it 2 years in a row. It's just
that definitely helps. We've had, Ryan Moore's had success at both. Usti, I think there's something to that. There's a lot of when I think about Valspar the way it is, obviously it's Bermuda. Patrick Cantlay was runner up at Valspar.
All right.
There's
this is why I'm just out here naming straight chalk. You were just throwing out these total darts, flyers. I mean,
yeah, that's what the people want.
They do want it. I could never make a case for Usti.
I mean, the thing is, listen, what you're doing, just so people know, obviously, you're taking ball striking numbers with what we have, and you're looking at those guys. And I'm taking some guys that obviously are flying way closer to the sun, more of a tournament play, because I'm factoring in when people see massive ball striking, ownership follows. It's not to say that that's not important, because that's how you should do it, what you're talking about. You need to combine it, though. You need to find somebody. You can't do 6 of those. You can't do 6 Ustis either. That's literally, if you do that, you need to self-exclude. But I think even Shane Lowry, if you want to get really aggressive, are guys just on a price that have some pedigree in the low 7s, if you want to mix it up there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guys down here. And this is what just strictly, and to go off your point, just strictly following ball striking, it can lead you astray. because as I mentioned before, it does lead you to guys where it's like you're just jamming in Kevin Streelman and you're overlooking guys who can legitimately win this event. It's like if Usti plays great, if Snedeker plays great, or
Sneds.
Lowry, if any of these guys play great, they are a threat to win the event. If you're following the ball striking to Kevin Streelman, it's like even if you get that performance, it's like are you getting a T15? I mean, is it a guy that you literally have to have in the nut lineup? Maybe not. He could play his top 1% outcome, and it's maybe not even that good.
And just to be clear, that guy probably makes the cut more often. But when these guys make the cut, they pay you off exponentially. Like when Snedeker makes the cut, he is infinitely more likely to win the event than Streelman. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
If I had to bet who made the cut, I would pick Streelman, though. Doesn't mean I like him more as a play. That's where it gets dangerously insane. And that's how I play guys like Lucas Glover and all hell breaks loose. He's actually been playing pretty good.
Oh, he's on my list. He's definitely on my list at the flat sevens. That's right. I'm going to let you name all these guys that are in terrible form.
And now I'm done. So you're back.
Put your stamp of approval on all these guys that are going to miss the cut. And then you're going to give me 2 layups at flat 7.
I cleaned it up. I set the table. Go ahead. Who are they? Yeah,
well, I mean, you mentioned Glover. Then the numbers have been good. He was 21st at RBC, 23rd at Colonial. Ball striking's been really, really good. Plus almost 5 and plus 7. So, gaining, 12 strokes off the tee on approach in these 2 events. Really good. The course history is bad. I don't care. I actually don't mind it. He's hitting it great. I don't care. He's missed his last 4 cuts here. But that's keeping the price down. It might keep the ownership down a little bit. I think Max Homa at flat 7 is very, very interesting. Just kind of like the perfect storm here. He was T41 last week, so that's not going to catch a lot of people's eyes. But I mean, the ball striking, he gained 3 strokes off the tee. He gained 6 strokes on approach, and then he lost 3 around the green. He lost another 3 on the green. So he struck it well. The short game just really, really held him back. So he finished T41 and he missed the cut at Colonial. But he's a guy who we've seen play really well. We've seen him win. Where did he win? Wells Fargo? Was it Wells Fargo?
Yep.
So he won it. He won an event. I don't know. Do you want to say it's Poa Greens and he's a West Coast guy? We could throw that in there. I don't know. But no, I really think at 7K, I think he's a guy where kind of one of the sneaky guys where the numbers were really good, but the finish wasn't that great. And he's cheap. I think he's got some pop. He's one of my favorite plays.
I don't mind that. I've been waiting to go back to him actually because of the POA. Ball striking was fantastic. Genesis is something I think you could cross a little because of Bubba. He was really good there. That's more secondary though. I mean, these are guys that you can look to. These are a lot of, if you want to go balance, you can end with these guys being your last men in, no problem. But the show is a lot more fun when you don't do that. And now we're going to get into, actually, we're not. What I'm going to do right now, chat, we got a lot of people in here. If you can pump up the likes, and more importantly than that, if you haven't joined and you want to, we'd love to have you as part of the team. We have packages from platinum monthly to yearly to weekly to PGA. We have express packages if you want to just get your foot in the door and try it out, to if you want to join for the whole year, we have that too. If you just go to awesemo.com/join, we'll find the package that's right for you. I say the same thing every time. Worst case, just give it a try. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I think you'll find it's good. I hold office hours. That's worth the price of admission on its own. You can do some things and find some egregious takes from me inside the ropes. Plus we've got Alex putting out just the best projections, ownership, and everything that you could ask for in terms of the tools where the money is made. But where the money is made is in the cheapies. I'm dipping this week. Last couple of weeks, we've been like, don't need to go down here. You definitely don't again, but I got guys and Chad has guys. Anyone catch your eye sub 7?
Oh, well, there's a couple guys. I don't know. I think I'm the opposite side of you. I might be one of those guys that's ending at flat 7 with Homa and Glover, because those are really the last 2 guys I feel very comfortable with. I mean, I don't know. What are you going back to Ryan Moore, 3rd week in a row?
I want to so badly. He can get wedges in his hand. He's just terrible, though. He's been killing me. I'm interested in him on certain teams where he's the type of player, we've seen the Russell Knoxes of the world win here. Ryan Moore fits that. He can get short irons in his hand here. Talk to me about, I don't like this guy, but chat seems to. You have any love for Cameron Champ? Just overpower the course.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it makes sense in the fact that at 6,800, if he makes the cut, he's going to make a ton of birdies in possibly
very good at Charles Schwab.
Yeah, he can outscore the placement as we talked about. I guess I never really thought about him. What did he have decent numbers? I guess I should look at his numbers at Schwab before I really commit to what I want to do here. I got him here.
He gained 5.7 with the ball striking, but he gained another 3 with the putt. He was just very solid all around at Charles Schwab.
Yeah, he didn't jump out to me when I was looking at the numbers, but I mean, yeah, 6,800, 14th at Charles Schwab. Like you said, I guess the ball striking was good. We know he's going to make a ton of birdies. So yeah, I don't mind him. Chat might have just talked me into somebody.
That's good. And now I'm going to talk you right off of him because I have chat, the Mega Mind, triple Mega Mind genius, possibly egregious play of the week. You know who it is? He's back. It's Charles.
Charles. Oh my God, no.
Charles coming back. I was playing him in Showdown last week, and he was actually fire. So before the break, he was 5th at the Pro-Am, 17th at Honda, horrible at API. That's neither here. Came back, made the cut last week. I know his off-the-tee game is very weak. Everything else seems more than solid. He has the comp to Valspar. He won Valspar in 2016. I kind of like the spot. Now, I'm talking a true 1%er here. Charles, making the player pool for seriously the first time probably since like the Joburg Open when he went over there as like a celebrity. I don't remember the last time I played him.
Oh man, no, I don't think I can get there. Off the tee,
obviously.
Off the tee wasn't good.
No.
Approach was just mediocre. I mean, he wasn't bad, wasn't good. No,
we know you want to talk about Doc Redman, so just go ahead. Like, I know for a fact that you want to talk about Doc Redman.
I'm just waiting my time and waiting my turn to tout Doc Redman.
Go ahead. This is your time to shine. I get it. You might be pseudo popular relative to his range, though.
I thought he was going to be pseudo popular last week, and I didn't play him, and then he was like literally like 2%, and I was like baffled by that. So I did not play him last week. So now I'll jump on. He'll probably be 10%, and he'll suck. But yeah, I mean, he's another guy. Two good events in a row. 21st last week at RBC, gained 10 off the tee and on approach, just literal fire, with the ball striking. Colonial, where's his numbers here? Decent at Colonial. I mean, a T58 gained 2.5, so not great. But I mean, I just think just off the numbers last week, he was 3rd in approach, which obviously very important again this week. It's not a course where you need to gain a ton of strokes off the tee. I think off the tee is important, but I think, any time you get an easy birdie fest, I think approach will be important. So 2 good events from him. The price really hasn't come up. I think he's my favorite play below 7K. I don't know. This isn't a range that I'm in love with. I'd much prefer to play Homa if I could find that $300 more. But he's the numbers say to go to Doc Redman. He's not doesn't have all the touchy feely, like, Schwartzley stuff going on where we're kind of like reading tea leaves and
that's all I do.
Getting like Ouija boards out and stuff like that. But the hard data says to play Doc Redman.
The owl told me, Charles. That's really how I go about these things. I think there are some names that, again, they're not informed. You have Wolf, Russell Henley, guys like that. You could look to them. You want to be careful, though, and not pick too many of them. Doc Redman obviously makes sense. I'm going to throw out just a couple more. Tyler Duncan is just playing good golf. There's another fine course for him. He's gaining consistently. I don't know what else to say. He looked good in both starts, and he's 6,500. I feel just as confident that he can make a cut as the guys in the low 7s. So I'll go there. Chad really wants to know about Hollywood Hoagie. I'm not there. He hasn't played well. I know he got hot with the ball striking, but I don't see that at all.
No, I've never been a big Hoagie guy. People love that guy. I don't know what it is. He kind of had like a Kokrak-esque run going on earlier this year where it was just like he seemed unstoppable, but no, he's just not that good at golf.
So a couple other names, then we'll bounce on out of here. This guy actually is worth talking about, and I'm surprised you didn't bring him up, is Matthew Neesmith. Did you see his ball striking numbers?
Of course I saw him. They were good. He was 33rd, gained 6. That still wasn't even nearly as close as Doc Redman.
That's true.
And Doc's been doing it way more consistently than Neesmith. Yeah, I mean, Neesmith's in the same boat. He gained 6 strokes with the ball striking RBC. Was slightly in the positive at Colonial. So, I mean, 2 good events. I wouldn't mind him. But I think Redmond was a lot better last week. I think Redmond's been way, way more consistent. He's shaping up to be a Connors type of guy. He's just kind of like Connors light. He's cheaper, but I mean, week in and week out, you're getting really good off the tee and on approach numbers. So I think Redmond's just far more consistent, and I think he's better than Neesmith. They're only $100 difference, but
that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, you're not touting Bramlett?
No, I don't. I guess that he did something. I was too busy cashing Chris Kirk outrights than Bramlett. I guess he played well again on the Corn Ferry Tour. No, I'm not there. Matt Wallace, he lost 6.5 with the approaches. That's a big red flag. Not saying he can't turn it around. These are guys tomorrow night, 8:30 Eastern. Me and Jason Roslin will dig into the egregious hour. Stop on by because there's a lot of plays down here. Harry Higgs, Griot.
No,
probably not. But in theory, the last guy will end with, do you know who Thigala is?
Yeah, come again? No.
Yeah, exactly. Come again. So the new wonder child, better than Norman Jong, apparently. Sahith Thigala, Haskins winner, which obviously is very good. 49th at Genesis, miscut in the U.S. Open. That's all I know about him.
Is he better or worse than Aske Batia?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about him. One day we got to string along, I was thinking about, I remember the big 4, and then we'll get out of here. You had a press conference with Hovland, Wolf, Morikawa, and Justin Sue. Yeesh. I forgot about Aske Batia, Norman Jung, and then there's Rahm, who also kind of turned out quite all right. So I'm not playing Thigala. Maybe he'll be amazing, and maybe next year we'll say, can you believe that he was the same price as Griot? I doubt it though.
Griot just never gets cheap enough. Like, wait, there's like
who?
Griot. He needs to go down to like 6,100 or something.
63. I mean, they can't break. They need to break the glass ceiling and start pricing guys in the 5s.
They really do. He's 63, and I have no urge to play him.
Kyle Stanley is 62, and so is Aaron Wise. And those are guys that right now, Chad, I haven't eliminated from the player pool. So my final thoughts on the matter, really, listen, I'm going to probably be more aggressive up top. Definitely going to look for some flyers. I just have to prioritize who that is. You don't want to be going crazy down low because the miscut equity is massive. So tomorrow night, I will sort all that out, try to build to unique combos. I think, Tim, you're going the other way, which is kind of cool because we have all the bases covered. You're maybe going balanced, looking to end with like the...
I don't feel real comfortable with anybody below 7K. I mean, Redmond, I will probably dip down to, but it just seems a lot better for me ending with Homa. But it's tough because there's a lot of expensive guys that you want to try and get in there. But this is a weird week. When I went back and looked at the numbers, a lot of weeks I see, and Bill Haas was kind of a joke. But a lot of weeks I'll see a guy that missed the cut, and it was like, wow, he really, the approach game was really good, and it was like all putter. And then there just wasn't that guy this week. If you look back at all the guys that missed the cuts, it's very odd. None of them really like played well but missed the cut. It was all just, they were just bad. So I'm just really not finding that one guy that's like, yeah, I really like him. He's going to sure up a lot of salary for me to use elsewhere. So not feeling very confident. So yeah, I'll probably go more balanced this week. But that way maybe one of us will have the right roster construction.
Only takes one. Yeah, and that's really what it's all about. So again, thanks to Super Draft sponsoring the show. Tomorrow night, me and Jason Roslin breaking it down once again, lineup construction. If you have any questions, follow me on Twitter. My handle's right there. Follow FantasyGolfMan on Twitter. His handle's right there. We'll be in chat fielding questions, certainly leading up to lock. Let's go win $1 million. It can be done. We saw it last week by somebody. Someone's going to do it again. Hope it's someone in chat. If it's not one of us two or Josh behind the glass, he counts. On that note, good luck, everyone. We'll be back next week for another golf tournament, and we'll see you then.